Talking Tuesday. It's what we do. We just sit around, smoke a pound, and talk about what we do in the cannabis world. We gon' let you know how the business go on a brand new show. Talking Tuesday. Show you how to do it right.
Hey, y'all.
All right. Welcome back.
Welcome to Token Tuesday, y'all. It's Tuesday again. Damn.
Back on it.
Tuesday then came around super fast. But we here, y'all, live on Token Tuesday. We here to give y'all the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know what I'm saying? Let's give a shout out to Kendrick Lamar. You know what I'm saying? A native of the city I know so well.
Oh, yeah, you're home.
You know what I'm saying? And he putting the stamp back on Compton, even though the stamp never came off of Compton. But it's just beautiful to see the brother doing what he was doing when he was wrapped up in that deal that he was in with the record label he was on before now.
Yeah.
He's on his own, doing his own thing. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar, good looking brother. Like what you're doing, young brother. Keep up the good work. Keep repping for the CPT.
The revolution was televised.
Oh, the revolution definitely was televised, recorded, it was put on wax, and then it was sent out to the world so y'all could see. You know what I'm saying?
OVO.
Y'all know what it is, but anyway, getting back to it, Token Tuesday. Welcome for y'all tuning in. We're going to get real live and funky here. Also want to talk about what's coming up on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of August.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what's coming back, y'all? For y'all that are the true hippies that lived through the experience of Reggae on the River. It is now back.
That's a legendary event.
Legendary event. And it's back in the hands of the locals.
Yes.
Because for a couple of years, it was taken out of the hands of the locals, and it was called Reggae Rising. Nobody was really feeling that. But now it's back to the original Reggae on the River. And I remember my experience at Reggae on the River was back in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, I was at Reggae on the River. That's how I started my Humboldt travel trip, and now am a resident in Southern Humboldt. You know what I'm saying? So it started way back then, the journey. And it was a good journey. Loved every bit of it. But just want to let y'all know, get your tickets.
The 2nd, the 3rd.
2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th of August. Reggae on the River is back. Get your tickets. California Cannabis has a booth there. So come by and check us out. I'll be out there flossing, y'all. I'm going to have some of that. It's going to be hot, so I'm going to have some of that good old tea, raspberry, lemon,
peach,
and peach tea infused. Come get it. It's there. So anyway, let's jump right into it. We're going to jump back into a couple of topics from last time that a whole lot of people wanted us to really dig deep on. And so we're going to touch bases back on cultivation. Marco was down for the count. His wife chin checked him and knocked his tooth out. So he was down for the count. Now the brother had a tooth pulled and stuff like that. So he was out. But he back in full effect. You know what I'm saying? Me and Keith had to hold it down. But hey, let's get live and funky up in here.
We in it to win.
Keith, what we talking about today? Let's see what we got going.
Okay, so last time you and I, we left off with cultivation. We had got up to week 6, and we sunset there so we could get into more topics. But when you're talking about growing organic cannabis, week 6 through 8 are probably the most important, because at that point you got a good root structure. The plant, you got enough nodulars, it's budding, you got pistils on it. At this point, you really can push some nutrient into to get the plant, the colas and everything to fill out. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is when we talk about growing cannabis organically, and we talk about affecting that rhizosphere as far as amending it with different minerals and stuff, this is the same thing that would happen with a human being in their immune system. So I make this comparison just so you can understand the metabolic structure of a plant and the metabolic structure of a human being is still cells that are exchanging sugars into energy. I think the correct term is mitochondria.
Mitochondria.
And when you think of mitochondria, the more efficient that your cells are in converting those sugars to energy, the better results that you get.
Exactly.
Now, I mentioned that because last week when we talked about cultivation, we started this off because of the pesticides.
Yes.
And when you guys really look at this, pesticides in cannabis is a problem, but pesticides in your food source is even a bigger problem.
Exactly.
Because what we're starting to see is, I was reading an article about inorganic fruit and the pesticides that are sprayed on them. Somebody juiced one of them in a cold pressed juicer. It was enough pesticides in the juice that they could respray it on the plant and it was still effective to keep bugs away. Now, this is really concerning to us because when you look at various cancers, various diabetes, just things that are mutating the cellular structure, what you're starting to see is heavy pesticides, heavy metals. Now, we bringing this up in the cannabis industry, but worldwide, this is a problem. So we really encourage everyone to look for an organic source of food as well as medicine. And I guess we need to talk about that conversation as the world starts to produce more. Because of the yields, you're going to see more and more of this. Because why? People don't want to lose money. They want to try to maximize their profit best as possible at the state of your life.
That's always been the case with corporate America. We always know that it's not about the consumer. You know what I'm saying? If they sell a certain product and can market it, it's not about the consumer. And what the end result is the fact that they like it, want it, and can come back and get it again. So they make it so desirable taste-wise that you'll forget everything else. It tastes good, it must be good. Not always the case. Just because it tastes good doesn't mean it's always good. And it could have all the negative properties and effects once you consume that product and you now have that product and you're digesting that product and how it affects you even through your digestive tract.
Right.
We just have to be very mindful about what we intake in our bodies. And that goes back to what we were talking about when we talk about these unlicensed, unregulated shops.
Yes, sir.
That are selling tainted product. And that's the big issue that we have to really push as an education thing, because people are always going to say, oh, man, I could go over there and get an eighth for such and such for $10, and I can get 7 grams for $20. I can go over there and get a half ounce for $25. But you're getting a half ounce of what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're getting a half ounce of trash. You're getting a half ounce of sprayed up, pesticide up product. And yeah, it's at a cheap price. Why? Because it didn't have to go through those stringent testing mechanisms that the state now has put in place to protect you, that dummy that wants to go over there to that shop because you getting more for less, but you get more bullshit for less.
For less.
You know what I'm
Virgil,
saying?
Let me piggyback on that, because here's something else that we need to speak to as cultivators. The characteristics of certain plants. Everybody wants these huge colas, but realistically, does the genetics say that it should have a huge cola? Because if you think about some of, our pioneer strands like Blue Dream, which was a sativa, had a really nice cola. But then when you start talking about some of your OGs, you really don't have really large colas. And when you start seeing big colas like that, speaks to the phosphorus and the BS that they putting on it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that started to change, realistically, that started to change in 2012 again, when PGR made its appearance.
Mm-hmm.
When the prices went down and you needed density to make up for yield, that's when that made its grand appearance. Before people accepted the individual identity of the plant, sour diesels especially, things that people complain grow long and stemmy, but they're meant to.
They meant to.
If you just let it grow as its own.
Right.
But having to create density, having to make up for weight, all of these factors for profit have changed everything. Big time.
Yeah, and when you think about it, everybody knows that OGs don't yield.
Right.
So now, this is where we get all the crosses in.
Yes.
So people don't really understand cross with this, cross with that.
Make up for that
It was all about the yield.
Yes, sir.
It had nothing to do with the quality of the product. It had nothing to do with, oh, I'm going to cross this bomb thing with this bomb thing, and I'm going to make it even bomber.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to cross this one with this and make this even colder.
Yeah.
It was all about the yield. Like this strain. But this strain, 9 times out of 10, which is a sativa, because let's keep it real, OG,
Yeah, an authentic OG is
a sativa.
Yes, sir.
And I know y'all falling out y'all seats right now. Not even, what?
Yeah, they don't want to hear
It's
it.
that's some endo. No,
No.
it's a sativa.
Yes, sir.
It's a sativa active all day long. Anybody that smoke a good OG, it's going to tighten up the brain. You're going to feel it in your brain first. Brain food. That's what they used to call brain
that's why
food.
rappers and everybody loved it so much. 'cause it was
creative.
cerebral. Like it could make
It
you,
was
you know, make you
cerebral.
think.
And that's sativa.
Yeah.
So I hope y'all really understand that. But anyway, getting
But that's
back
where
to
that
the
color came from, too. Being
Exactly.
a sativa.
So they would take that, and sativas were small yielders. And so they would take that and then crossbreed it with something else. Another indica, which was a heavy yielder. And now guess what? Now you got this cross that now gives you a bigger yield. Because it wasn't about keeping that quality. Now you have so many crosses, man, you don't even know what's what now. You didn't cross so many stuff, they now call it gumbo.
Right. Right.
Because you done just crossed it so much, people don't even know what to call it. They just call it gumbo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And whoever the hell came up with gumbo, Dumbo. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? But it's just, this is what the industry has come to.
Yeah.
What it is up to people like us that are responsible people within this cannabis industry and community. We have to bring it back. We got to bring things back to where it was. Because let me tell you something. You'll never find nothing as bomb as a skunk, number one. You'll never find nothing that'll do what Northern Lights did. You'll never find nothing that'll do what a OG original purple kush would do. You know what I'm saying? Or a lavender. These were the strains, original OG Master Kush, the original Bubba Kush, not this knockoff Bubba Kush.
The BC from Canada.
BC from Canada even was a decent weed that was brought down and did a little something. But these were the strains that were really setting the tone for what was called, what we call dank weed, chronic, bomb. Right. You know what I'm saying? Endo, dodo, all of these terms that we had used throughout the years to represent the product. But we have to now bring that back. Now we have to start really being particular about the quality of the product. Because at the end of the day, we care about the end user. One thing you will always hear us say is, as players in the industry, we care about the end user.
Yes, sir.
Because the end user was us at the end of the day. Right. The end user was your homeboy. Because you were selling weed to your peers. You were selling weed to the people that was in your community. Yep. You wasn't selling weed. It wasn't like a dope dealer.
Right.
Like a drug dealer. Right. That would go to the state of Oklahoma and sell dope. He don't know nobody in Oklahoma. That ain't where he grew up at. Them ain't his peers in his community. Yeah. So he going to sell dope where he don't even know nobody else. So what he care about what he do to that community? But when you at home like we are, and we selling weed to our community, to the people within our community,
right?
To the man that's going to work in the morning, to the man that's getting off of work in the morning, to the lady that's going to work in the morning, to the lady that's getting off of work in the morning, the old lady up the street who got arthritis, who had back problems, who had hip surgery, all of this stuff. We were given to our community. So we cared about the end user because we sure didn't want them bad-mouthing us in the community.
Yeah, right.
Because if they bad-mouth us, we wasn't going to make no money.
Right.
We wasn't going to make no sales.
Yeah.
Man, now we've allowed this industry, unfortunately, we've allowed other people that are not from our community to try to dictate what is good and what's not.
Yeah.
And that's where we went wrong. We got people coming in our community talking about, we want that Zaza. The hell? You know what I'm saying? That wasn't from L.A.
Those are terms from other states.
Exactly. Oh, we want this or we want that. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't terms from here. So we talk about what's happening in the root. We the mecca of this thing. So at the end of the day, we make the decisions on what does and what don't. We make the decisions on what's good and what's not. Why? Because we're the cultivators of it. We're the producers of it. I don't tell the man that's growing oranges down the 5 freeway what kind of oranges to grow. Hell no, he grow them oranges and we go buy them. I don't tell them cats in Georgia what peaches to grow. No, they grow them peaches and we go buy them and eat them. I don't tell the whiskey man in Kentucky what kind of whiskey to produce. No, he produced that whiskey and we go get it.
But Virgil, I want to piggyback on what you just said. That's why most communities had a relationship with the cultivator. Because think about it. He's the only person that knows what that plant actually is.
Exactly.
I tell people this all the time. The person that cut that clone and the person that put it in the ground are the only two people that know what it is.
Exactly.
Everybody else is what I just told you it is.
Exactly. Yeah. After I grow it.
And even then, they might not know what it is. I've seen people get clones thinking it's something that it wasn't until it finally grew. And they like,
and you be like, man, that man told me this was such and such.
I seen
oh, this was a cookie strain.
Right.
And it's a rookie strain. It ain't a cookie strain. It's a rookie strain.
So here's something that I noticed, because there's a lot of that going on. People say this marathon, and then you grow it out, and it actually not. But if you look at the terpene profile of most of these plants, especially with OGs, myrcene, caraphyllene, and limonene, them gonna be your top 3. All of the plants that even have won most of your cups, they pretty much teeter around them 3 terpenes.
Absolutely.
And this is like for the last 10 years. So we know as cultivators what people like, and we know exactly what the terpene profile of it is.
Exactly.
I think for some of us back in the day too, though, in my area where we used to do our thing, what was more important than even those specifics was seeing the final proof of somebody else. Like, we wouldn't get clones and things until we saw what you did with it.
Exactly.
Like, we didn't really care if all those components were there, because even if those components were there and it's a shitty grow, it's a shitty grow.
Exactly.
I want to see. I know I might not be able to duplicate it, but you'll at least impress me and make me realize that's the potential of where I could get it as well. So if I'm getting the clones from you, can you show me the final product from it?
Now,
you know what I mean? And that
really
helped
good.
a lot.
Speak to the microclimate, because you and I both could grow the same plant.
Yes.
But get different results.
Different results.
Absolutely.
But at least seeing your results,
give me an
it's really
idea
great
of what
results,
I should be getting.
It can, you see what I'm saying? It gives me
and that's very important that people have to know, is the end result of the product. Because like you say, we all can grow the same weed, and all 3 of us will have the same clone, bought from the same person, came from the same cut, came from the same mother, and we can all grow it in our different ways, and that product will come out different.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And the biggest and most important thing that people don't understand or should understand, especially cultivators, know this. You can spend a whole season growing some bomb weed, and you can get to the part where you cut that thing down and go through the curing process, and you don't know what the hell you doing.
Yeah.
It's all bad for the home team.
Yep.
Because you just grew some bomb weed that ain't going to be bomb when it's finished, because you don't understand that curing process.
Yeah.
So Virgil, that's literally the next piece. Talk about that curing. Just go from harvest right into that curing process. Talk about some of the characteristics, the humidity, no lights that allow that photosynthesis. Because here's what a lot of people don't understand. Your THC in your plant actually can go up at least 2 to 5% after you cut the plant.
Absolutely.
During the curing process, because that's when your THCA is going to convert to THC.
Exactly. And so what you have is that when you look through the microscope onto your plant, and you see those white, milky little balls that just make your mouth water. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And you see a couple of them when you look on the plant, see a couple of them turning brown, letting you know, okay, it's time to shut this down. Time to, if you indoors, it's time to turn the lights out.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Or if you outdoors, it's almost time to chop this thing down and go on and hang him and start letting him dry. But Keith said an important thing, the humidity. You have to have a climate for that curing process. Can't be too humid, and then next thing you know, it can mold right there as it's curing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want it, when it's ready for trimming, you don't want it too wet and you don't want it too dry. Mm-hmm. Because if it's too dry, then it's going to be too brittle. But you want it to get to that. You want to look there in that microscope and see those trichomes just bursting out.
Yeah. Listening.
And that's what you want to see when it's all said and done. And if you don't do that, then you've just taken a crop and ruined it. If it's too humid, or you try to dry it too fast, it's too hot, or you got the AC blowing on it directly and it's too cold, and now you got brittle weed that don't nobody want, that's going to crumble to dust.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then the only thing it's going to be worth is maybe a pre-roll and a bong with some screen on it so that it don't fall through the hole.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What a lot of people don't realize is even that white ash, because that's our report card. Like, as you smoking it, because it has no pesticides or nothing that's harmful to it, you should see a white ash. Through that curing process that you just mentioned, if it's too brittle, it's going to be more blacker.
Exactly.
But if you lock lock it in, it's going to be white. It's going to burn slow because it's literally just burning up the fuel that's within the plant material.
Absolutely.
Basically, what we pushing across to you is even once you harvest your plant, there's still work to be done. You still monitoring this plant all the way into the point where you get it into the jar. Now, what we consider at that point, it should be at a equilibrium, and it should be able to remain there. If kept out of light, no air or anything, you could keep good weed maybe 1-3 years. How long have you guys heard of like weed that still stay good, still knows and everything?
Damn near a year and a half.
Yes, sir.
I'll say like a
year and a half. Because you have to think about what the cultivators used to do back in the day on the hill. A lot of them that are cultivators that have gotten to a certain level in their cultivation. And what I mean by that, they was comfortable. They didn't really need no more money like that. They was good. Or some that had made money and was sitting comfortable. So they would take a portion of their crop
and bury it.
Bury that thing. Put it in the barrel, seal it up.
Dry.
Bury that bad boy. You know what I'm saying?
I remember them days.
Put it underground.
They try to pull it out during this time
and
of
they
the year.
pull it out during the drought. You know what I'm saying? They wait until everybody pound is sold, and then that guy come running in and saying,
because like he said, like when they first cropped, that was the technique. They just needed to make their money back, so you would get the best deals from the beginning. But once they recoup, they're patient. We good now.
Exactly.
We gonna wait till summertime, because this is what we in today, where it's like baseball year round. Like we turned into baseball where it's like year round sport.
Yeah.
Before it was a seasonal thing for real.
Seasonal for real.
You know what I'm saying?
And so they would take it, like I'm saying, and bury that stuff. And then next thing, everybody coming around talking about, dang man, ain't no weed around. Guess what? Somebody coming up out the woodworks, hey, I heard such and such got about 50 pounds sitting over there.
And trimmed it up, looking good.
And guess what?
A piece.
He didn't put it's $100 more than what it cost me for, $200 more. And depend on the drought.
Yeah, double up.
Shit.
If you got it for $500, let's just say $1,000 in December and November. Summertime, that's $2.
See, you got to keep in mind, because, you got to keep in mind that first, let's just be clear. The weed started off damn near in the $40-something $100.
Oh, right. Now,
you got to remember that.
It was the 7s and the 8s at one
exactly.
point.
It was $40-something $100 that you was buying the weed.
Yeah.
It wasn't until years later it started going down. It went to $3,000. Then it went to $2,500. Then it went to $2,000. So everybody was popping 2,000. Then all of a sudden, the generation changed and they came in and it went to 1,800. Then it went to 1,600.
Yeah.
Then it went to 1,400.
Yeah. And then people want to overlook, but there was always one that was ruling the game that we don't really bring up too much, but it is what it is. And it goes back to even when we talk about quality of weed. For a long time, there's always been a group of people that they just need the dirt. Like, it don't matter.
Exactly.
And that was Arizona. AZ.
AZ.
The brick weed, 22 packs.
Exactly.
All day. That's what the Mexican brick weed. Now you talking about quality and pesticides? And
oh my God.
What are we talking?
Sticks.
What are we talking about then?
Sticks, seeds, and stems.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, hey, that was back in the day when you used to hear people smoking weed and that shit was pop, pop, because that was them seeds up in there.
And it was booming.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that was back in the day. You sitting there breaking it down and you sliding the seeds up out the way and you pulling the sticks and stems and showing the best you can and rolling that bad boy up.
Yeah.
See, that was back in the day
and it came compressed in the 22
came
brick.
compressed it exactly.
And you knew when times
in the
got
bales.
hard for that part of the game when they started offering you 11s.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
finally can't cut it in half.
Now,
It was like, listen, man.
but see, the cold part about it, the game didn't change so much. Man, ain't nobody selling that shit no more.
Hey, look, I think Snoop helped usher it in. No sticks, no seeds, baby.
Nah, but they were still booming. They were still booming.
It was still, even when he was saying that, it was just the fact that he was smoking on a different level because he could afford to. But he was no seeds, no sticks, no stems, sticky icky, ooh wee, put it in the air. You know what I'm saying? Hey, and he was putting it in the air. Some of my shit in the air too.
Right.
You feel me? Because I was that guy back in the day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting back to it.
I'm sorry, I jump in on this. In Zambia, we still have those. That's what we have right now.
Oh,
With the seeds.
with the seeds.
Really?
Sticks and- Oh, you know what I'm
that's where it
saying?
makes its way. Because even when, like, you go to Bahamas, when you go to the Caribbean places, that's what you're getting.
Oh,
like
yeah,
when
no
you're at
doubt.
The beaches and you
Yeah,
go to the
you
resort.
still getting that.
That's still what's really getting.
Come on, man. Hey, look. I remember when I went to Jamaica. Hey, facts. I went to Jamaica. I had 2 ounces of weed in my pocket on a plane, flying to Jamaica. 2 ounces of weed sealed in a Sillamil bag, but that shit was still reeking on the plane. People was probably
Every air pocket.
Hey, man, everybody was probably wondering, somebody up in here smelling good than a mother. Ain't nobody thinking you smuggling weed into Jamaica.
Right.
They thinking you gonna try to smuggle weed out of Jamaica. But shit, while I'm there, I'm about to floss and have fun. Plus, I was there to meet a friend. My mentor that had got deported, he needed something from the real motherland of cannabis to soothe his soul after he done just got deported. Because you ain't going to be smoking on this for a good while.
Yeah.
Now, you bring up a really good point. When you look at some of our islands like Dominican Republic and Jamaica, Haiti, because of their microclimates, they really didn't have high THC. So
No,
we
they
talking
didn't.
about 14, 18%. Now, mind you, bomb weed was still going to get you there, but it literally did it with CBD and a low THC. When you talk about the microclimate that you have up there in Southern Humboldt, why you able to get them high THC is because of that difference between that night and that day temperature. In the tropical places is pretty much within 5 to 10% temperature change all the time, whereas he getting a large
It's consistent from day to night. It is very consistent. It'll be 100-something in the daytime and it'll be 90-something to 80-something at night. Ain't that big of a difference. Right. But in Humboldt, it can be 100-something in the daytime and it's going to be 42 at night, freezing your ass off up in them mountains and them trees. Yeah. Best believe that when that sun drop, you better be putting that hoodie on. You know what I'm saying? And get up out them flip-flops and them shorts because it's getting ready to get real cold. So you're right about that, Keith. The West Coast climate, which is, of course, everybody loves the West Coast climate more than anything. Some people like Florida, but Florida just too humid. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You sweating just because. You come out the shower sweating in Florida. You know what I'm saying? So you can't beat the climate here in California and what we have, and that's what makes us such a perfect place to do what we do well. And that's grow weed. And anybody that is a transplant that comes from somewhere else and comes here and figures that out, man, I'm in the best place. People would leave their state to come here to grow weed.
That's me right here.
People would, other people they would even leave their countries. Like when you hear the terms trimmigrants, which are people that are coming from other places to trim, a lot of those people are foreigners.
Oh yeah.
Coming in to get a trim job. To just do some trimming to get a job.
Yeah, labor.
And they use a term up north, trimmigrants.
Yeah.
Like migrants, trimmigrants. And that's just what it is. But everybody knows if you want the best weed, you want good grown weed, or you want a job in the weed industry, come to California. And it's just simple as that. That's like Keith said, that's our microclimate. Everybody knows that throughout the world, that's what we hustling about. That's what we doing. This is what it is.
Now, here's one other thing, even for indoor growers in your microclimate. That 100 degrees in the daytime, that plant now, to protect itself, has to make bigger trichomes. And literally what the trichomes are going to do, that clear liquid is more or less like a UV protector. So literally putting that high intensity in there, we do the same thing in indoors. You want to get it up to the 11 to 12 because the higher the intensity, the more trichome production you're going to get, the more coverage on the plant.
Absolutely.
And literally the plant, like, is trying to protect itself from the UVs, but we using that to our advantage because that's the characteristics that we want.
Exactly. And that's where you get your stickiness in it.
Yes, sir.
You get that sugar on the bag. When they talk about that bag appeal, that's that bag appeal right there, because it's looking icy white, like you want it, frosty, and it's sticky, and it's gooey, and it's gummy, because that's what you want. And you do some trimming, and then you look at your scissors, you can, on some good weed, you can scrape that right off of there, roll it into a ball, pop that in a nice little bong, and get you a cool little hit up off of that, because that is straight THC to the maximum. But yeah, I also want to jump into taxation, because taxation is very important to what we are dealing with at this time. And right now we have something that has, passed through a couple of little steps in the House and so on in the Senate. And it's a bill to take the tax on tax off. And it is very important because they're taxing us on the gross.
Right.
I don't know who or any person that gets taxed on their gross.
So for anybody that's not familiar, that's SB 1059 that Virgil was talking about. And it just passed the House and is now going to go on to the state Senate. But we mentioned this the last time that we were going to go into this more. This is one of those things that you guys got to realize. Whenever you growing cannabis, we grow it in small batches because that's where you're going to always get your best results.
Exactly.
When you're talking about these really huge grows, you really don't have the time and attention to literally get the plant to express itself the way it is. So
not in a commercial grow. They fighting for space. They fighting for everything up in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. But what I really want to press upon to the listeners is this. If you want that small batch attention, expect to pay a little more. And at a certain point, we can't be delirious with ourselves to say, I want Louis, but I want to pay eat Irk and Jerk for the Louis. No,
exactly.
If I want Louis, I'm going to pay for the Louis.
Exactly.
So the reason why I bring that up, when we talked about earlier, everybody want cheaper. This is medicine. If you want this medicine to do right, you want the same consistency, and you want to be able to see us actually do what the plant is supposed to do, we have to create a fair and equitable market. Not only for the customers.
You know what I think to hit with that topic? I think it's just your market. It's who you're marketing to. It's who you appeal to, because those people exist for certain people, but not for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that to a level. And I'm going to tell you why. The lack of education is why a lot of people do what they do.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? If you don't know, as they say, if you don't know better, you don't do better. And that is true for most people. Some people know better and they just don't do better.
Right.
And we all know that those type of people exist in this world.
Yeah.
We see them every day on the road. They know better, but they don't do better. I think that the more education that is put out there in the realm of things, understanding if I want a high quality cannabis, I have to pay that high dollar for it. Everybody, the problem is it was a race to the bottom. And corporate America converged in on our industry and did this race to the bottom. They didn't care about the product. They didn't care about the quality. They didn't care anything. They just wanted to know, how much is it? How much can I sell it for? How much can I pay for this case? What are my margins on it? And I'm going to push the mess out of this, and I'm going to sell it cheap, but I'm going to sell it fast and hard. I don't care whether it's a low budget, low quality, or what. I'm just going to keep pushing it down people's throats. And we as consumers accepted that. Instead of rejecting that, saying, no, I don't want that. I want this.
Yeah.
And so I understand that we want a good quality weed at affordable price, but we have to understand that in order to make that happen, we have to be concerned with these taxes, because the taxes is why our weed is not affordable. Weed has always been affordable.
Yeah, it's the I was about to say, it's the taxes that makes it not
that
affordable.
yeah.
And that's why the black market could still win, because this has been around for too long.
Exactly.
And I'm a person that's been selling a lot, like even just on a retail side, since I got out of high school in 2003, nonstop, just selling to people all day long, getting to see their psyche and their mentality. As long as the McDonald's and the Burger King exists, so will that clientele in weed.
Absolutely.
Period. And like you said, if you know better, you do better. But some people know that they shouldn't be eating McDonald's, and they'll still go eat it. You know, and they're loyal to it. So and there's always going to be someone that's willing to manufacture, like China, and undercut anybody and try to duplicate what you do at a higher rate. It's just what it is. And if it's more so us adjusting to the vicious environment of business, as opposed to trying to somewhat change it, because it's vicious all around. Whatever we're not willing to do, somebody else is.
Absolutely.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's whatever we're not willing to do, somebody else is. And while we're crying about it, somebody else is taking the market share.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And from my view of things, at least.
No, that's a very valid view that you bring up, because that is true. First thing somebody's going to say, oh, Marco over there selling to them high-class people and them middle-class people. But them low-class people can't afford that. So I'm going to go over there and I'm going to sell that Kia to the low-class people. They going to get this bucket over here because that's all they can afford.
Yep.
So you now become the bucket man selling buckets over there.
Yep.
Because they can't afford those cars that are quality.
Yep.
The same with cannabis. But the difference with cannabis is something you getting ready to put in your body.
Right.
Yeah. This is something you are getting ready to consume, and it's going to either affect you in a positive way or it's going to affect you in a negative way. Yeah. And this is the message that needs to be gotten out there, is that we can't just keep putting trash in, trash out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you wonder why. Like, you look at even at my generation, a lot of people in my generation are dying. I can't even tell you how many classmates of mine have passed away. I just got a text just today that a classmate of mine's sister passed away. You know what I'm saying?
And she's younger.
Come on, no, yeah, but not much. A year or two at best.
In 60s is dying crazy right now.
Come on, man.
People
so
in their 60s is just the health, the food, what they were given, what they were. Man, so
there
much.
you go. It's the food and it's everything else they're consuming. You put cannabis, you put a bad diet in with some bad cannabis, in with some bad drinking, in with some bad living, and shit. How you gonna get anything good up out of that?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to.
And boutique has always existed. There is boutique.
Come on, man.
And certain people will buy it, but it's us to either create that market. It's not going to always be the biggest.
No,
but it'll be loyal, and you'll still get a lot out of it, because the masses still wants the trash.
But let me tell you something. That's true on a whole lot of levels. But if a lot of us as industry players begin to grow quality versus quantity, then it'll automatically turn the market all the way around. Why? Because now we're growing less, but we're growing the best.
Right.
So what happens? That means now the supply is smaller than the demand.
Right.
Then what happens? The price goes up.
Yeah.
Now that the price is up and it's at one, it's and the taxes have been taken care of.
Yeah.
It's still affordable, but it makes sense for the cultivator and the grower to continue to grow that quality product.
Yeah.
Because now it makes sense for them. If you want to come to me talking about you want a pound for $200, you knocking at the wrong door. Because I'm not trying to grow no $200 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But Virgil, let's go back to what you said earlier about educating the people. Marco, to your point, as far as there will always be a segment of this market for, economical shoppers.
Yeah.
You have to think about it like this. Right now, today, when a person walks into a dispensary, do they know what sun-grown versus what's light depth, what's indoor?
No.
What? So
They don't
how
have a
can
clue.
you just basically say all of these are the same? These are apples and oranges that we comparing. And there is a certain amount of education that needs to be given to the public to say, listen, you absolutely can get this right here for this price, but understand this is not the sun.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So that's the only thing. Each one of you guys got really good points, but as we mature this market, we have to get to this crossroad where the consumer has to now look at the cultivator and say, is this fair, equitable for both of us?
But it's like this, though. How many people know their alcohol?
Not many, but there are some connoisseurs.
There are, just like there's connoisseurs in weed.
Well,
But what I'm trying to say is the masses does not. See, my experience as a person that's dealt with state to state, dealing with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, something that we have learned also is that some people do not want to be educated. And ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Sir?
So, again, it's like talking politics. You can't force anything. Once a person has their ideology and their belief, it is what it is. And that is why for a person that's more, I guess you could say, a capitalist mentality, they don't care about those details.
It's almost like a cult.
You see what I'm saying?
You could
because
tell
those
them-
details just don't
Yeah.
matter, because how are you going to change these individuals?
No, you can't. It's like saying to
you can
somebody this
educate
in a
as much
cult.
as
You
you
can't.
want, because I know I have, and he knows he has. We've been in environments, both of us, for a very long time. I always joke around how McDonald's says over 5 billion served. I always say in my career I've had over 3 million served, in terms of over 3 million transactions in a retail space. So that means over 3 million conversations with multitude of individuals from a multitude of countries and states, backgrounds, races, religions, class, economic backgrounds, you name it. And a multitude of conversations have taught me that you just got to give people what they want.
Yeah, sometimes you
What
do.
they say, take the horse
You
on
know
board,
what I'm
but you
saying?
can't make him drink it.
But I
And
want to.
it sucks.
It does.
It
It
sucks.
does.
It makes me look like I'm numb and like I'm one of those. Nah, not really. It's just I know I've seen it. I've seen. Let's take it to a street level back in the day where you trying to teach your brothers and your sisters some real shit,
And they
then
say, I
won't
don't want to
even
hear
buy
what that
from you.
nigga saying.
And
You
they-
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, shut up, nigga.
Yeah, they
You
don't
know what
wanna
I'm saying?
hear it.
It's
They don't
sad.
wanna-
They
It's
don't
sad.
want to hear it.
No, and I'm the same here.
So-
Malcolm, we don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
Because I was preaching to him.
I'll be preaching, and I realized preaching made me lose some sales.
Come on, man.
And I'm like, listen,
I won't say
what's the-
preaching made me lose no sales. 'Cause
Right,
they knew I had the bomb shit, so they was hey,
nah, I ain't gonna lie,
they had to tough out the conversation. They was like, man, we don't want to hear that shit, man. Just give me the weed so I can go.
Right.
Give me the weed so I can go.
yeah.
You know, but I want to get back to what Keith was saying. I like what he said, though. One thing people don't understand, and we talk about indoor weed grown, we talk about sun grown, we talk about greenhouse or light assist. What people don't realize, when you talk about that bomb diggity weed that we used to talk about back in the day, that was not indoor weed. It was not indoor grown weed. That was grown outdoors. And it was grown in greenhouses, and some was just grown straight outdoors.
Yeah.
I knew a dude that went up on one of the hills out in Humboldt, in southern Humboldt. He had his trailer parked on top of the hill that he lived on. We pulled up on him, and his crop was all right out front of his trailer. He didn't have nothing covering it up. That shit was right out
Right
in
outside.
the open. And he had the bombest lavender kush that I ever bought. The bombest lavender kush off of that hill that I ever bought. Grown right out in the sun. And it looked beautiful and pretty and nice and soft. And, oh, man, everything you wanted in the properties and qualities of your weed. So people didn't understand that bomb weed that I was selling all throughout Compton, L.A., Watts, East Side, West Side, all the way up to the Valley, was all outdoor grown weed, sun-grown weed, the best sun-grown weed.
And I'm going to add to that because I know Verge grew. And one thing I will say, a philosophy that I used to have, that I always used to say, you always wanted weed from the growers who grew to smoke it themselves. That's what used to make the difference. What used to make the difference is when you would buy from the people who wanted to smoke it themselves. The reason why I say he's an exemption is because he was still growing for people he cared about that he wanted to smoke good. Because Verge wasn't really big on to the smoking, but you were growing. But in most cases, you wanted to get it from somebody who was growing it to smoke it themselves because the integrity was different. Because I am consuming this.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm telling you, it's a different game because
it's a different game.
It's just a machine.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
money.
Like, it's a huge machine.
But you know what you just said? You said what we have always been saying. We care about the end user.
Right.
Because, like you said, I would go purchase it from somebody that I knew that grew this weed the best it could be because they wanted to smoke personally.
Right. And they just happen to have so much they can sell it.
Come on, man. And so they cared about, themselves, which was the end user.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm going to sell it. And I know I'm getting the best weed from one of the best growers. That I'm going to give it to the end user because I cared about the person on the other end. I never looked at those people as a paycheck or a dollar. I looked at them as my people that I'm servicing. I'm servicing something to them that they want and that they need, and I'm here to provide it to them, right? And I know that I was doing something, providing something good. And that's the difference between caring about what you do versus those that get in here and they don't give a damn about what they do. It's all about turning a profit.
Right.
And like I say, what you have seen come into this industry is all of these big corporations come in, converge on our industry, and start pushing that type of narrative to where now you have the person who cares right next door to the person who doesn't care. And what you don't see is that person that cares because he's being drowned out by the person that doesn't care because his prices are cheaper, because he's able to buy some bullshit at a cheap price and sell it at a cheap price, where this person here may not have the buying power that this person came in with because he don't give a shit. This ain't his industry. He came from some other industry.
He was
came
anti the industry.
And he came in cash flush.
Yeah.
He came in cash flush, where this person scraped and scuffled in the industry to get up where he is. He started with a few dollars in the industry and built his money from this industry, where this dude came from a whole nother industry or a whole nother profession, built his money in that profession and said, I'm going to jump into this because I heard it was good.
Yeah.
And so those are the people that have come in and destroyed this industry. But I want to run back to the tax situation. You guys have to understand that there are taxes that we pay. We pay a sales tax. We pay a cannabis tax. We pay an excise tax. And that there is something that is beyond amazing within our industry, is where we pay 3 different taxes. And understanding that us paying those 3 different taxes and then the tax on tax, meaning that what we were talking about, the gross receipts tax, which we're taxed at the end versus at the beginning, which makes a big difference. And then the killer part about it is that if you purchase an item or you get an item that costs you a certain price, but you sell it for a different price then you paying a whole different tax on that too. Yeah, these taxes have affected not only the retailer, the cultivator, it affects the consumer because at the end of the day, those taxes are always passed down. Look at when Gavin Newsom decided, and I ain't a fan, used to be, but I ain't a fan because don't understand business. He raised the wages for, once again, people flipping burgers to $20 an hour. That's a non-skilled job. You ain't no skill in shaking fries and flipping burgers.
Shut down.
Those jobs were to the 16-year-old and 14 and 15-year-old kid that was needing a job when they was in high school or subsidized some little chump change while they was in college. So you didn't have to pay them a lot of money because those were a kid's job. That wasn't a grown person's job.
Right.
The oldest person you saw up in there was the manager, and he was 22 years old, using that as a stepping stone to be able to go into some other career. This is what that is. But now, what has happened? And I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of Trump's, but I got to agree with him. We didn't let folks come in and take these jobs from the kids. Now, if you look at it, when the kids are out of college, what job they going to go work? Can't go work at McDonald's? Why? Because you see that 50, 60-year-old person or 40-year-old person working at McDonald's now, and they keeping that job for a long time. So you now have older people working at McDonald's, Burger King, and all of these other fast food places that was a kid's job. They came in and took them jobs from them kids. And then Gavin Newsom thought it was smart enough to start paying them $20 an hour. What you think was going to happen? You thought the food was going to stay the same? You thought the price of that food was going to stay the same? So what I say, when prices and taxes are put on people and raised or even in corporate America, that trickles down. And so now we wondering why we paying so much for a hamburger now. You could thank Gavin Newsom. You can't go to Burger King and get that price you got last year, or go to McDonald's or go to any one of these fast food joints and get that because they didn't raise the price. They didn't raise the wage on an employee, a non-skilled worker. So what ripple effect does that have now? That skilled worker say, shoot, I can't make as much money as a burger flipper now doing what I'm doing. So now they looking at their boss to now want to raise their wage. Because if the burger flipper is making $20 and I'm way more skilled and educated than a burger flipper, I should be making more money.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I think it was 2023 was the year of the strike.
Yeah.
So when governors start to raise the minimum wage on like your restaurants, realistically what happened since the pandemic, we've been in a high inflationary period. So you got housing that's out. I think some housing in California done went up 30%. So we talking about 10% every year. So realistically, guess why that 50-year-old person is working at McDonald's? Because they can't afford to retire. Yeah. So they getting squeezed. And come on now, we all grew up in the hood. Remember 3-car Molly? We don't find out where the bean. That's literally what they doing. They literally kicking this can down the road.
Kicking it down the road.
And we have to be smarter. Like I tell people this all the time. And let me, where the camera at? Listeners, stop putting people in office that take money out your pocket.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
I don't care what speech they come up with. If it's taking ends out of here, stop it.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Bottom line is we need to understand what will lower the taxes in this industry to make your cannabis affordable. You have to go out and vote. SB was at 1059.
1059.
SB State Senate Bill 1059. Go out and vote on that, because that is going to lower the price on your cannabis tax. And it's going to lower the price of your cannabis. So that is very important to make sure that this bill passed, and hopefully there are a few more bills to come, because there shouldn't be an excise tax on cannabis retail. That is just ridiculous by all means. It should not be an excise tax. There isn't even an excise tax on cigarettes on a retail level. But you got excise tax on cannabis. Ain't no excise tax on alcohol. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no excise tax on your medicine. That's something we need to fix. I know we got to wind it down. This has been amazing tonight. Before we get up out of here, I want y'all to know about the new California Cannabis Farms joints. They are here live and kicking. We pop them off, hybrid indica sativa. Real nice. Want y'all to come check them out, get them purchased. California Cannabis Farm joints. Now, these are straight from the farm. Then we got the KODs. The KODs is called Knockout Diamonds. That's diamond infused. And then what we have is our beautiful joint here, roll here. Look at that. Now, that's pretty. That right there, glass tip. The glass tip. Now, that's been painted. This is handcrafted. This ain't no machine rolled, handcrafted, painted in nice Cat 3 distillate, rolled in some good keef. Now, that's some sugar keef right there. And with the glass tip, so you get the best pool of it all. Come down, check your boy out here at California Cannabis. And last but not least, the icicles, baby. You can't go wrong with some icicles. So just to pop this open here for y'all to see and get your mouth all watered up. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. I just, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? So you come by here and check your boy out. These are right here, $10 a pop, $15 a pop, $20 a pop, $30 a pop. These is out the door, tax and everything included. So this, only the best grow in the West. This Token Tuesday has been powered by California Cannabis, but only the best grows in the West. Y'all need to know that. We going to come back with y'all next week. Topics we going to talk about next week. We going to jump right back into touch a little bit more on the taxes. But next week, I'm going to let y'all know we getting ready to get down and dirty. I'm getting ready to come back. We talking some shit next week. And we going to talk about some folks. So y'all need to come back and hear about these folks we getting ready to talk about. Because now we getting ready to talk some industry shit. Oh, and by the way, for y'all that don't know out there, this round and wave that's going on right now in the industry with the social equity licenses, they are now having their hearings. They are now going in front of neighborhood councils. And these neighborhood council people are coming out and speaking out against these shops. You better believe that. So if you've been one of them fakes coming into the community and trying to act like you a part of the community or you care about the community, oh, I've been doing book drives and I've been doing backpack giveaways. Bullshit. I'm going to call you out. So we coming back next week to talk that shit. Bullshit. Oh, I gave away turkeys on Christmas. Bullshit. Nino Brown gave away turkeys on Christmas and crack too. So that's bullshit. We ain't trying to hear it. And these neighborhood people ain't falling for it. Because you can best believe over there in Marquise Harris Dawson's district, them old black people ain't for that bullshit. You ain't coming up in they part of town thinking you going to try to get a license in they neighborhood claiming that you social equity, you black owned, and you ain't. So don't come fronting to them people, man, because they going to let you know what they really think. I'm going to speak on one that came in talking. We talk about Free the Trappers and sit right there on an iconic corner of Crenshaw and King Boulevard. And look, let me tell you something. 30 years plus in this, so I got the right to talk about people. I got the right to let them have it because you coming into my industry. And you got to come into my industry, you need to play by the rules. You come on an iconic corner and put a disrespectful sign to the community talking about Free the Trappers. How you going to make that good? Ain't nothing good about that. You know what I'm saying? Just like it ain't nothing good about nigga. Ain't nothing good about that. Wasn't nothing good about slavery. You tell them people that was in slavery that, oh, we going to turn that around and make it good. How you going to make that good? Ain't nothing good about that. And we got to stop with that bullshit. Talking about, oh, I'm going to flip this and make it good. Ain't nothing good about trapping. I don't like the two so-called trap shops down the street from my Melrose store. And you think I support trapping? Come on, man. Knock that shit off. So, anyway, we coming back next week. and we get ready to let some people have it. They even hollered about the Cure Company that moved in illegally up the street from me. I'm going to start calling you motherfuckers out. So tune in next week, because I'm going to tell y'all next week, I'm going to give it. And y'all do y'all homework, because they out there. And I'm going to put everybody on blast and keep putting everybody on blast. Because what we do here as real cannabis players, we keep it real and we tell the truth. We don't sit here in front about something we ain't did. We don't sit here in front about something we don't know. We don't sit here in front about none of that. We keep it real here on Token Tuesday and with real cannabis players. We'll holler at you and be back at y'all next week on Tuesday. Come check us out live on Token Tuesday, where only the best grows in the West. I holla.
Token Tuesday, it's what we do. Smoke a pound and talk about what we do in the cannabis world. We gon' let you know how the business go on a brand new show. Token Tuesday, show you how to do it right. You need seed.